Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And today I'm excited about this episode today.
Well, you know, we both like nice things, and
Yeah.
we like to eat and drink and be
Yeah.
adults.
And be merry.
Yeah, be merry.
So in today's episode, I was hoping that we can talk about food.
Well, we're from South Louisiana.
Yeah.
And we pretty much are the best food capital of the world.
Mm.
You know, even we even beat the French. I'm sorry.
Right.
Kiss my ass.
Right.
We beat the French. And the food here is just amazing.
Yeah.
And everybody's got their own little twist to everything.
Right.
You can have gumbo across the street and it be completely different
Yeah.
than your own.
Right.
But Louisiana is just such a hodgepodge of things
Mm-hmm.
that we get the best food and
Yeah.
the best people.
Yeah. Well, sometimes.
What's your favorite food? If you had, you know, to have your favorite meal, what would it be?
That is such a hard question or question to answer. I feel like.
Is it your mood?
Well, I think it all depends on, I guess preference, because it changes. There are so many things that I enjoy. Like I'm just a sucker for pasta of all varieties. Really,
Mhm.
I mean, you can put.
What about a good steak?
Yeah. I'm thinking for myself. Pizza is usually always like a really big one. It's just easy. It's just
Mhm.
I feel like there are certain things like that, like pasta or sushi or pizza, that are just like a vessel. It is like ubiquitous.
I love good sushi.
I'm not a big fan of sushi, but I know it's the same.
Really?
Nah, it's
Really?
not my thing.
That surprises me a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
That it's
Because
more,
if people were to look at you and look at me standing next to each
Yeah.
other, they would think you were the sushi
Oh,
guy.
I see. Okay, interesting.
They would not go, "Oh, he's the sushi." They would not look at me
Right.
and go, "Oh, I bet he likes sushi."
It is, the term, I like the term pizza or sushi, or like in the way that I'm talking about,
Mhm.
is there is like a traditional way that it's made. There is
Okay.
this like one way you're probably supposed to do it, typically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
but it is such like you can make it whatever you want it to
Right.
be kind of thing, which I think is so fun and interesting, and it can be anything. So it just becomes like this.
Well, I really agree with you on pizza.
Yeah.
Being a barbecue kind of guy,
Mm.
you know, a smoker, barbecuing kind of food.
Right.
One of the best pizzas I make on a big green egg. And you
Okay.
have the little plate setter and you put the little pizza stone on it. And
Oh,
I use my brisket or my pulled pork,
Mm.
and you put some fresh onions and maybe some mushrooms. And
Right.
instead of red sauce, you use, Sweet Baby Ray's,
Yeah.
barbecue sauce
Yeah.
or something, your own barbecue sauce, and put, just put your cheese on top
Oh,
of
yeah.
it and just
You
little
see,
smoke.
you see what I mean? Like it's if you were to think traditionally what a pizza is,
Right.
you probably wouldn't call that what that is. But it is. Like it
Mhm.
is, for all intents and purposes, a dough or bread or
Right.
something with protein and cheese and some sort of sauce of some kind. And I love that it is this, it could be whatever you want it
What
to
about
be.
the big argument? Does pineapple go on pizza?
I don't even want to go there. I don't personally like it, but I know that people love that.
People love it.
But the thing is, I also don't want to shit on anybody's preference, because again, there are weird combinations that I may like that I can't think of right now, but I know that I, may enjoy certain things together that everyone's like,
Sure.
that are like, oh, I don't like
Mhm.
that.
One of the things I do is, and it freaks people out when I tell them that I do apple pie on the grill.
Oh, interesting.
And when I make my crust, I don't use lard. I use bacon grease. You can buy bacon grease in 5-gallon buckets now.
Right.
And so I make my lard with the bacon grease. And so you always want to do it in a cast iron skillet when you put it on the grill. There's a couple of reasons. There's a couple of reasons for that. You make the crust with the lard and the bacon. Well, I mean with the bacon grease instead of lard, and then you put your Granny Smith apples and your sugar and do whatever you're going to do in the inside of it, And then the same thing on the top crust. You use the bacon grease. And so you get this wonderful smoky bacon on the top.
Gosh, that sounds amazing.
One of the reasons you keep it in the cast iron skillet is because it stays warmer longer.
Right.
So when you plate it, you top it with real vanilla bean ice cream, and you let all that melt together, and it's like candy.
That's crazy.
It's like candy.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I just want to give a fair warning. I don't think I did this appropriately at the top of the episode, but if you're hungry, I'm sorry, because this is going to be probably the worst episode for you, but also probably the best.
One of the best.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll give you an idea on something to
exactly. Do. I recently signed up for HelloFresh.
Did you?
Yeah, and I solely for the purpose of, between Mallory and myself, we're very busy with. For me personally, work, and with her work and school and everything. So we've been eating out a lot, and we're like, we both want to eat healthier.
Right.
You know, maybe not the most healthy in the world, but just, eating out all the time, it's a big waste of money, especially now that how much food is right now,
sure.
Especially going out places, even if it's not a sit-down restaurant. But I just want to, I want to cook more. I want to learn how to cook more. I want to try more things. I want to be a little adventurous and, all that stuff. So we're looking at a few different services. We decided on HelloFresh, and so far we're probably 2 weeks in, and it's been so cool.
How many meals are y'all doing a week?
3.
3.
Yeah, I think you can do more or less, but I think for our budget and, we have some leftovers for stuff, and we also cook other things throughout the week. So having these 3 meals that are just perfectly portioned, and you just have it all there, cook it all.
So let me ask you a question about that. I remember Miranda talking about, she has a couple of kids, and when she was married, that they tried one of those services before.
Yeah.
And she quit doing it because, number one, they had a hard time with their spice balance. But number two, it took too long to cook. Even though it says this amount of time, it seemed to her it always take longer than that. Have you run into that yet?
Not with the ones that we've been doing. I'm not sure if they just have gotten, if they changed, their formula in which they do certain things, but I still make basically everything that is, involved in the recipe. If it's a sauce, if it's the chicken, it's nothing is frozen. It's all fresh. So vegetables.
Hopefully, if it says Hello Fresh on it,
right. What way? So
it's
far,
not Hello Frozen.
Exactly right. Everything has been coming very fresh and very, very wonderful so far. And if I was to cook it by myself, it may take a little bit longer.
Okay.
But
hey, that's an interesting. So that's something y'all can do together.
Yeah, exactly. And so for the two of us, it's nice for us to both be involved in this, but it's also not impossible for just her to do it or just for me to do it.
Right.
I'm not sure if it also is potentially because I worked as a barista a little bit, where I like certain things in the kitchen to be a certain way, and I have timers going, and I'm pretty good at multitasking a lot of times.
He's not lying, listeners. I was looking at one of his Insta-Read thermometers, and I accidentally put it a half an inch differently than the way he had it. And he promptly reached over there and moved it where he wanted it. So he's telling the truth. He is very particular.
But so I'm not sure if, and I'm not saying that Miranda doesn't have that, but the pressure of at least
maybe having a couple of kids running around and everything else too would add to that.
The way the steps go is they do a pretty good job of each recipe getting done in 6 or 7 steps, but that involves you doing more than one thing at once. Preheating the oven and preparing vegetables, then getting the meat cooking, and then so it's not it's kind of a song and dance almost.
But y'all also don't have 3 kids running around.
You're right, exactly. Yeah. It's just the 2 of us, and even if I take a little bit longer on a step, it's not. But so far I've been loving it. I just love the fact that we can have a home cooked meal, and it's something that I probably never would have thought of, or it's something new, or it's a fresh take on something. And that's a big thing that I just have been enjoying. Is it could just be some steak and potatoes and some broccoli, but they give me some fresh onions or some fresh whatever else it may be, and it's like I never thought to make that. We made some steak with some kind of special demi glaze, and it was just this like little sauce you put on after the fact, and it was really interesting. Mallory didn't really care for it, but I was like, this is really nice. It turned out to be a very well cooked steak.
Right.
Not to toot my own horn, but also this sauce that came with it. I was like, I never would have thought to make that. And I was like, I love that. That's the whole reason why I wanted to do that, because I was like, I want to eat a little bit better. And we're also spending so much money already on going out that if we just dedicate that money, the two of us, to like every week getting some fresh meals.
Well, just before I came here to the studio, we cooked some burgers. And
I love a good burger.
Yes, with the blue cheese and the onions and the whole works. And you're thinking here, we did this for about $3 a burger. But if you went to a restaurant, that'd have been $12 to $15 for a gourmet burger.
Yeah, right.
And it may have not been as good. And we didn't have to leave the house. We did it right there, and it was awesome.
Right.
That's why I was late a few minutes too.
That's I'm totally okay.
And but once we got cooking it, we needed to do it and eat it.
Yeah.
But man, we were like, oh wow, this is great.
I've done that with turkey burgers as well. I have taken turkey burgers. I think they're okay. I mean, I spice them up a little bit. I usually will make them a little better, but I will.
At least it's not the plant-based burgers.
Oh no, thank you. But I put pepper jack cheese on them. Yeah. I love a good piece of pepper jack cheese, and then I will always splurge on like the thick cut Applewood smoked bacon, and then like cook that in the skillet before I cook the turkey burgers. So I mean, probably of all the benefits you're probably getting from eating a turkey burger, it's like,
you've blown that out of there.
But I'm okay though, because it's delicious and I love it.
As long as it's delicious,
exactly.
That's fine.
And it makes me happy. So that's the big part.
Was there anybody that was a good influence in your life cooking, or are you just kind of picking this up yourself?
My dad, really. My dad may not have been like the best chef in the world, but like, he was always made it look easy. I realized. My mom had a saying, and if she's listening, I'm not throwing her underneath the bus. I'm just repeating what you told me when I was growing up. She used to have a sign over the archway into the kitchen that said, "I have a kitchen because it came with the house." And so my mom was like, funny. I'm not one to cook really. Right. So she would, but the thing is, she also would cook things before as well. Right. I mean, maybe not super adventurous, but like we had, chicken breasts or, a nice pot roast or whatever you want to call it. But my dad would always make, especially because we live in Louisiana, jambalaya, and then certain parts of the season gumbo, like the two mainstays. And I remember like growing up, I used to always love my dad's jambalaya. And I know it's just like with everything else, you have like the everyone knows this experience of like my mom makes the best spaghetti, and it's just that nostalgic flavor, and it could just be even out of a can, but for some reason it's the way your mom made it, and you're like, my mom used to make the best spaghetti. Everyone has that, or at least everyone has that one thing I've always heard about. Same thing around here. Everyone's like, oh, my mom used to make the best jambalaya, and the thing is, none of them are probably wrong. They all make really great jambalaya.
Just for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but even still, like if I tried them, I'm like, this is not bad jambalaya. This is great stuff. But the same thing, I was like, I used to eat my dad's, and I was like, I know my dad. I don't even know what he used to do. I still don't know. But I used to like. It was so interesting to see him do all his stuff in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff like that. So
my whole family could either cook or not cook. So my mom's parents were the country folk.
Okay.
And my dad's parents were the city folk. And so depending on the weekend, which house you went to, depending on what you were going to get. I remember when I was a kid, my pawpaw on my mom's side would wake us up at like 4:15.
Okay.
And give us 2 cups of coffee and 2 bowls of Product 19 cereal with as much sugar on top of it as we wanted.
Really?
And we would eat that.
Wow.
And we would drink that coffee. And he'd put us back into bed. And Grandma would get up and cook us this huge big spread. Eggs, bacon, pancakes, everything. And she never understood why we weren't hungry.
Yeah.
Because we had just, eaten and drinking all that.
Right.
But on my dad's side, that's where you went for the steak and the little, the virgin highballs. They were the bougie people, and you'd go there. I remember one time my dad, He was just kind of a dick.
Right.
He would never teach you anything. If you wanted to learn how to cook, okay, go clean the barbecue pit. He wouldn't teach you anything about cooking. And so I was over at Granny and Papa's, and Papa was like, yeah, come on with me. I'm going to show you how to do some of this. So we're cooking, and he says here, I was probably Magnus's age, to be honest, 11 or 12 years old. So I'm holding the tray, and he's putting the steak and the chicken and the sausage on it. And he goes, okay, come on, let's go. And I turned, and all of it slid off the tray, going all the way down the carport.
Oh, no.
All the way down the carport, underneath the vehicles and everything.
Yikes.
And he just never missed a beat. He picked them all back up, put them on the tray, said, nobody will know anything. And we served it. Nobody said anything.
You just got to dust off the rocks.
Yeah,
it's all
that's
good.
it.
Yeah, it's fine. Wow.
But so I had a really good upbringing. My granny, the same.
Yeah.
She could cook. She was probably one of the best cooks on the planet.
That's crazy.
And you could arm wrestle her. She was a little bitty old lady. She could arm wrestle. Because she was always messing with those big cast iron skillets.
Yeah. There's
cast
nothing.
Iron pots.
There's nothing like a good old fashioned cast iron skillet.
Yeah. And so we'd get on the ground, and she'd beat us all arm wrestling.
That's crazy.
Man, she could cook. She made these seafood tamale. Everything she made was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was, and that was one of my first inspirations on cooking was my granny, and then my mom.
Yeah.
Because my mom had to do a lot with a lot less.
Right.
Because my dad only gave her, X amount of dollars to spend all month.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
You didn't he got his LSU season football tickets.
Yeah.
But we might have ate grits 2 or 3 times a day.
Right.
But he was going to get his.
Yeah.
And so my mom would go. So when Sam's came to town, that was a big deal. Because then she could get more in bulk. But, I remember trying just to get, but back then you could get 3 or 4 buggies full for $200 or $300.
Right. Now you can barely
now
get
you
one.
can get half a buggy and you got $300 in it. So my mom would do a really good job with a lot less.
Right.
But as time went on, I could get off the school bus 2 blocks away and walk in the door and tell her everything she was cooking because I could smell it. Even over all the other mothers cooking, because in the neighborhood I was in, all the mothers, you didn't go out to eat.
Right.
Except maybe on Sunday after church.
Right.
All the mothers were cooking.
Yeah.
Or dads or whatever.
Right.
That, home.
Exactly.
And I could walk in the door and say, Mom, you cooking this, this, and this. And she'd go, how do you do that? I don't know. I always had that nose for it. And but my mom was one of the inspirations too.
Yeah.
She could feed a family on a couple of bucks.
Hey, and see right now, like the next thing Mallory and I are trying to venture out into, because I think it's really interesting and I want to do it more, is hosting a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
It's just having 6 to 8 people or maybe less. Or right now, I have a dining room table that has all the facilities to host that many people. And I want to do that. I want to make a meal for a whole.
Hear me out.
And so
right. Hear me out. What I used to do was when I first really got on my own, when I moved out, I really wanted to learn how to grill. Now I don't grill anymore. I barbecue and I smoke. There are 3 different things. They're cousins,
right?
But I don't really grill anymore. But I really wanted to learn how to do that. But once I got further down into it and I became in competitions and, and really doing it and opened up the little catering company and stuff like that, I would have what's called a guinea pig list.
Okay.
And I'll text. You'll be on that list and I'll text. And I say, I need 12. Mm-hmm. And the first 12 that say yes get to come sit down at the table.
Oh, wow.
And I'll try a new rub, a new sauce, a new process on something. And you get to sit down and you may not know anybody there.
Okay.
And you sit down, you have a meal, and then you get a survey.
I love it.
And you fill out the survey.
That sounds awesome.
But what it does is it guarantees you in 30 days, you get to come back.
Okay.
Because I'll take all of those surveys together and I'll read what I like, what I don't like, and I'll try to fix it over. If it needs to be fixed, I'll try to fix it. Mm-hmm. And then in 30 days, you come back and we look at it again. So that's kind of how I got my little dinner party start, was with my guinea pig list.
Wow, that's really cool.
And I, too, like you, I love doing dinner parties. I love having 4 or 5 couples over.
I just believe, and this may be because a religious background as well, but I think that even if you're not religious, a lot a lot of wonderful things happen at a table. I think lot of amazing things, a lot of things happen over food. I think it's who we are as people, just like I believe the same way about music and how I think music is so intrinsic to who we are as humans. But I think it also is something about communing with others.
Yes.
Just sitting down, having some drinks, sitting down, having some food with each other. It's just sharing that, that same mentality of like sitting around a fire and, and just having that kind of companionship. And I love that. And I think it's what's getting me interested in that is I am now being adventurous and trying new things for myself and cooking more and getting more comfortable in my own kitchen. And then I'm like, now I want to have friends around where I can like cook this meal and have a fun time where we can all sit down and have a blast. Because I recently did that for Mother's Day. I invited my mom out, made a big old pot of chicken Alfredo, which is like my mainstay. Like I said, I'm a sucker for pasta.
Right.
And it was the first time that I made like twice the amount that I normally would.
Right.
And it turned out just the way I wanted it to, and it was perfect. And everyone loved it, and it was such a fun experience because we also had drinks, and we were all having, it was a real awesome moment. And so I really appreciated that.
One of my idols, Dominique Corinne, is one of the very few multi-star Michelin star chefs, female chefs.
Right.
And she has a quote. Now, I was trying to look for it, but it says, "If we all took the time to enjoy each other's company and a good meal, the world would be a better place."
Oh, dude. Yeah.
But food is truly a universal language.
Right.
Because everybody's hungry.
Yep.
Somebody once said that if you're a chef or a plumber, you're always going to have a job. Because everybody has to eat and they got to poop.
You're right.
But for me, food is always, and when you're talking about these dinner parties and when you're cooking for people and you're looking at the table that people may know each other, may not know each other.
Right.
There's a moment.
Yeah.
Where time kind of stops.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's just talking.
Yep.
And then they're eating and talking. But there's this one moment where nobody's talking.
Yeah.
And all you hear is the chewing,
and
the fork and the knife and the tink on the plate. And you know you did it.
Yeah.
And you know you did it right.
Right.
That is probably one of the best feelings in the world.
I understand exactly what you're talking about. It's like that second, right, like there's a whole lot of hustle and bustle and commotion, and then right when the food gets down, it's that few minutes leading into it, and everyone just really experiences the whole thing before they get back to what they're doing, like talking about and stuff. And I love that. That is so cool.
That's one of the best feelings on the planet.
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't want to discredit, like, for me, it's just like when I talked about with coffee.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is part of whiskey groups, and I am part of coffee groups. And one of the things that those whiskey groups talk about is that there's no right or wrong way to drink whiskey.
That's right.
It's all how you like to drink, or it's what you like to drink and the way you like to drink it. And I have incorporated that into a lot of the coffee stuff that I've done as well. There are so many vastly different ways to drink coffee and enjoy coffee in whatever way you want to prepare it. And I've adopted that in my own life and teaching other people about it. It's like there's no right or wrong way to drink coffee. It is all what you like to drink, the way you like to prepare it, and the way you like to drink it.
But in that, you are absolutely right. I used to have a friend. His name was Vernon. And he was a cook on one of the local... He was a newscaster and cook. And they would put his food on the noon show. I think like once a week or maybe more.
Right.
And he made a comment to me one day, because when you're doing this for people and you love doing it, there's a tangible ingredient that we always forget. He asked me, he says, when you take a recipe from your mom or your grandmother,
right,
and you cook it exactly like they did, why does theirs always taste better?
Right.
Why?
I don't know.
He says you forgot one ingredient.
What's that?
Love.
Right.
And it's been proven it's a tangible ingredient. When you're sitting there just chopping away because you just want to get it done, and she's sitting there cutting it going, that's my baby. I'm cooking for my baby. I love my babies. I'm cooking. That's my grandbabies, or that's my son or my daughter or whatever. The way they're touching the food and the energy that they're imparting on that food is just very different.
Right.
And it's a tangible ingredient.
Right. But with that, going back just a little bit, is that I don't think that you have to be so pretentious about certain things, like when it comes to coffee or wine or whiskey.
There is no right way to do something. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Hers is the right way.
Right.
Because she's doing it with love, and she does everything different than everybody else, but she's doing it for you.
Right.
That's the only right way to do something. The minute you get off of that, it's wrong.
Yeah.
But with cooking, light roux, dark roux.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
How far do you saute the onions?
Mm-hmm.
Remember in our last podcast, we talk about how many decisions we make in a day?
Yeah.
It's the same in cooking. You know,
but,
do you use this broth? Do you use this? What do you...
Right.
Who cares? Enjoy it. Love doing it. That's what I hate
mm-hmm.
about the cooking shows out there today.
Right.
They beat you up. They scream at you. They holler at you because you're not doing it their way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go head to head against Gordon Ramsay any day.
Mm-hmm.
Kiss my ass. The way he talks to people is wrong. You're taking the joy out of what you're doing.
That is the same thing that I said about music stuff. It's like the people that make music unenjoyable, I despise that element of things of where like, yes, there is a precision to music. You can really make music into a science almost about certain things.
Well, it's math.
When there's nothing,
it is math.
Yeah, so. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the part for me, like I watched the movie Whiplash, and I had a really hard time watching the movie because of, and I know this is probably all just, fiction, obviously, but on the off chance that was a real person that was doing that, it's like, I understand that you're expecting this level of perfection, but at the same time, if you are damaging people's perception on music, if you are hindering them from wanting to continue creating music, I don't think you are successfully making musicians.
Right. I agree.
And I think the same thing is like if you are a cook and you're trying to get people involved in cooking and you want to be so precise, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, if you are making it so unenjoyable for people that they don't want to cook anymore, I don't think you're a good cook.
But I think that preciseness sanitizes things.
Oh, right.
We talked about that on, when the CDs came out and you lost that little scratchiness in the discs.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is the same way. Music is exactly the same way. It's those little things that change that make it better, that make it you, that make it who you are.
Right.
I've been on TV a couple of times as a guest chef, and I've tried to take the time to show people that you can do it this way and make it fun,
right, and
make it happy and enjoy it without having to beat each other up.
Right.
Can you imagine somebody coming and screaming at me about something?
Yeah, not going to go over very well.
No. So that's what it should be about. It should be back more toward the family.
Right.
Restaurants used to be family owned, little mom and pop. You came and you sat down and you ate a good meal. They overstuffed you.
Right.
And you enjoyed it. Now these big chains, they don't care.
No.
They're pumping out this MSG crap. You're having a good time creating meals, and what you're learning, even with this HelloFresh thing, is down the road you'll learn how to make your own. You won't need HelloFresh anymore.
Exactly.
And you'll go, oh, I have this confidence, and I know this, and I saw that on TV, and it looked so complicated, but now I did this thing,
right?
And I get to spend a few minutes with Mallory. And, we can play with each other in the kitchen. And, we can throw the wet towel at each other and squirt each other with and make it an event, make it an experience and a memory. And to me, that's what food has always been about, making memories and experiences.
Right. And so I had posed this idea for us to talk about for a second because I wanted to go into something. Like I said, you don't have to be pretentious. You don't have to love things a certain way.
Right.
Because I think it's also context. Depending on, adjust your expectation. I've always said this, that around here, I'm not sure if anybody else in the States has this, but Waffle House, there's a bunch of them around here.
Right.
And sometimes it's like a thing that an unspoken rule. I never go to Waffle House before 9 p.m. It's just one of those things, like I always go there late at night. It's always that the old diner feel.
Right.
And I love going there at night, and I love just having that moment because it's usually quiet a lot of times just after dinner time or whatever. And getting a nice hot cup of coffee and having this breakfast meal that's like not that is it's cheap,
right?
And it's not expensive. It's not elaborate. It's not winning any awards, and it's probably, to be honest, not a great cup of coffee. But where I'm at, and in that moment, especially a lot of times, I used to go there with my dad a whole lot, and with his friends or with my friends, and so I just associate that with just these memories of like hanging out with friends, or just shooting the breeze with somebody, or my dad and I just having this real father-son moment. You know, it's not like the big thing is like people used to tell me, especially because I like coffee, and people like to call me a coffee snob, is that I'll order a cup of coffee there sometimes, and they're like, I can't believe you're ordering coffee here.
Why?
And I was like, adjust your expectation. I'm not going to go there and then critique them on their roast of coffee. I'm not going to critique them on like, oh, I think the ratio's a little off with your beans to water. I'm like, it's Waffle House. You go there and you just enjoy because the most scalding hot cup of coffee you can get, because that's probably the best way to drink it.
Right.
And I think it's the same way, is I can go there and eat this very, this sub $8 meal and have a great time with friends and have a really awesome experience, and not have to be, all hoity-toity about it.
It's all about the connection between people. I'm okay with Waffle House.
Right.
That used to be hanging out with our little group. That was one of the places we went. You know that.
Exactly.
Your dad, the other people in the group, you went to Waffle House.
Right.
Well, there was one by the house, and this was probably about 2 years ago. And I would go in there, not necessarily for the coffee, but occasionally I would have one,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They're crappy, chocolate cream pie. But I like a good omelet every once in a while.
Right.
I just want an omelet.
Exactly.
I don't want to fussle. I don't want to cook it myself.
Exactly.
Just give me an omelet, some sausage, and go.
Exactly.
Well, I was talking to the waitress and one of the cooks. There was nobody else in there.
Right.
And that's when you kind of build
and
relationships.
I love that.
And they were talking. I said, oh, yeah, I do a little cooking, blah, blah, blah. And the next time I went in there, the little cook said, don't order anything.
Okay.
I'm like,
okay.
All right. So he wanted to be a chef.
Okay.
And so he was trying out all these omelets on me. He says, I want to try this,
so
or
cool.
Can we try this, or let's do this. And so after about 2 months of this, I said, dude, you got to leave the Waffle House.
Yeah.
He goes, no, man, I'm taking care of my family. I said, hold on. All
right. Just you wait.
Just hold on to that. So I called a friend of mine who had a restaurant in New Orleans. And I said, I got this guy. No school whatsoever.
Right.
He says, well, I gotta come into your town. I'll be there Thursday. I says, come on, we're going for an omelet. And so he saw me walking in. He starts with the omelet thing. And so my buddy sits down. I go, oh man, I'm sorry. I said, this is planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make your omelet.
Right.
He hired him on the spot. He said, dude, you coming with me. I got this restaurant over here.
Wow.
You're done. You're done with the Waffle House.
Damn.
He says, just watching you, listening to you, your passion for food, your passion to create an experience and make somebody happy.
Right.
I got you. He put him in culinary school.
Damn.
This was a kid who never would have that money, never would have that opportunity. And I'm not saying it's because of me.
Right.
I didn't do nothing except connect the two.
Exactly.
I enjoyed an omelet.
Right.
And I told somebody about it. That's all that was my whole
Right.
And now he's doing really good.
That's awesome.
Because that's to me, that's what it's about. It's always about an experience.
Yeah.
It's got to be that experience.
Right. Especially when it's something like that, like you feel, it's the same thing with I have a chocolate chip cookie recipe. I have a chef friend of mine who is making pretty good money, like doing stuff online, being a chef. He gave me the base. I was like, I don't want to be able to bake a lot of things. I want to be a jack of all trades. I do that in my professional life enough as it is. I don't want to be able to bake everything.
It's one or two things.
I want to be able to make. Let me try and bake one thing really well.
Right.
And he was like, "Here is the baseline for a really great chocolate chip cookie recipe. And I'm a sucker for chocolate chip cookies, especially like homemade ones.
Right.
And he was like, here's the baseline for it.
So we'll have them the next time we record.
Have you ever had them before?
Yours?
Yeah.
No.
Oh man. Okay, then yeah. Well, I will.
Really?
I definitely need to. I need to make some more. But he gave me the baseline for it. He was like, here's what you have. Here's what you can do to make a good, just cookie. But here's some pointers, and of course, you just try it. Do what you want to do, and work it out. So it took me probably 6 months to a year of like making it a few different ways, every now and then to try different stuff, and I really narrowed it down to like what I really like, and it has like some fresh ground espresso in there. It's like dark chocolate and semi-sweet chocolate chunks, not chips. A whole lot of time they're about yay big, like about the I don't know.
He's showing me a 4.5 inch diameter cookie for the listeners.
They're pretty big, and again,
thick or thin and crispy.
Thick.
Ooh.
And so he described them as like artisanal cookies, where it's like these are like something that the recipe he makes to like make really nice cookies for stuff. And I was like, okay, let me hear him out. So I made it a handful of times, and I enjoyed it, and I really refined those things that I liked about it. And now I love making them. And again, it is that same element of like, there is a routine that I like. And again, it also plays into my perfectionist tendencies, like with coffee, how you can really nickel and dime this thing all the way down to like a really precise science if you wanted it to. You don't have to, but you can. And baking is that, where it has to be a little more precise than just cooking certain things is. And so and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the process of really getting to this point where now every time I make it, I'm like, this is a creation. Like, not only was it like collaborative, but like I had a hand in like not only just making this obviously this item before you that used to be nothing, but now is a really good cookie. But it's also the fact that it has been a long process of like narrowing down this really awesome recipe. And so
it's funny you said that. Since over 30 years, I have these big 3-ring binders.
Right.
Say you gave me a recipe.
Okay.
I would take that recipe and I would make it exactly how you told me how to make it. Exactly. I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
And then I would flip the page in this 3-ring binder, and I would write everything I liked and didn't like about it.
Okay.
Then I would rewrite the recipe.
I see. That's
and
awesome.
then I would cook it again.
Yeah.
And then I would flip the page, and I would write everything I liked and didn't like about it. And then I would rewrite the recipe.
That's so cool.
And I would do that kind of like you until I nailed it. And then once I did that, I would take them all out and flip them. And that recipe would be on the top. I still have those 3-ring binders.
That's so cool.
And that's how I would do that. That's how I would perfect something. And if I got too far off, because of the notes that I took, I could always go back to what I really did like and then start again.
Right.
And that really helped out.
That's so cool.
I remember when I first had my my diabetic episode, when I realized that I was diabetic. We thought I was going to die. And I have guns. I have stuff. I have ancient books. I have, you name it. All my friends were not asking for that. They wanted to know where them damn 3-ring binders were. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me?
Right.
All the guns, man. Where did you put the binders?
It was all your hard work.
My hard work.
Almost like your memoir. That's so cool.
But that was a good memory, because that I knew people got it.
Oh, yeah.
I knew they understood that process.
Right.
They weren't going to do it, but they knew the value
of course.
And so that was pretty funny.
That is really cool.
I got to tell you, I want to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
And it's about food, obviously, because that's what we do. I had moved to Florida.
Okay.
And I was homesick. I lived in a place called Dunedin. It was kind of northwest of Tampa.
Okay.
And I lived on the Gulf of Mexico. You could literally throw a rock from my back door and hit the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
It was right, and it wasn't pretty beach, but you could still hit the water. And I lived in a duplex, and I was so homesick. The food was okay. You could get good Cuban, different. There was no real good Cajun South Louisiana food. because you couldn't get the ingredients.
Of course.
So I'm trying to research, and I'm looking for this, and tried a couple sausages, and there was nothing really good. Chicken is chicken. But when you do a gumbo, you want a good sausage, you want some andouille, you want something in there. So I found this lady that had a little bitty cubicle that she sold all Louisiana products.
Wow.
She shipped in tasso and andouille and good sausages and spices and everything from Louisiana. I was in heaven. I was literally in heaven. So one Saturday morning, I started cooking, and I was cooking my roux. Mm-hmm. And when my roux is done, it's black, like the monitor right here.
Yeah.
It's right to the point of burning, and then I already have all my veggies cut, and I throw it in there, take it off the fire, throw it in there to cool it off.
Right.
That sautés the veggies and cools off the roux. So, and you can't stop.
Oh yeah.
Cannot stop.
No.
Once you get to that point,
yeah.
I've spent the 20 minutes cutting the onions.
Right.
I don't know if you do the Holy Trinity. You know what that is?
Yeah, I've heard.
The Holy Trinity is onion, bell peppers, and celery.
Celery.
Yes. I do what I call the holier than thou quad. Okay. I do onions, garlic, bell peppers, and rotel.
Okay.
All right. And I like all the bell peppers. There's 4 colors of bell peppers. I'm going to put them in there because I like the color and I like the flavor.
Right.
So I had spent my time, chopped all that up, drained the rotel and put it in there. Just adds a little, not a lot.
Yeah.
Just adds a neat little flavor to it. So I have that in a big pot, and I'm cooking my roux, and I'm getting close. Mm-hmm. So it starts to smoke a little bit. All of a sudden, I heard these sirens going off. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? And they're outside. And I live in a duplex. There ain't a lot of places to go, you know? And so I'm right at the point. I mean, right there. If I stop.
The cusp.
All of a sudden, bam, bam, bam. Somebody's beating on my door. Right. Dunedin Fire Department, open the door. Dunedin Fire Department, open the door. And I can't stop.
Right.
Open the door. We're kicking it in. I said, I'm screaming.
Yeah.
I can't stop right now.
Right.
I'm cooking a roux. What? I'm cooking. Sir, open the door. There's smoke coming under the door. And I'm like, shit. So I picked the pot up.
Right.
Okay. Now I'm in my sock feet.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I'm still trying to stir the roux so it doesn't burn. Hobbling over there. I'm trying to open the doorknob with a sock foot.
Oh my gosh.
I finally get it open, and they're coming in, and I run back to the stove, and it's right at that point, and I don't put it back. I put it, boom, I throw my veggies in there, and I stir them up and cool it off, and I go, what do you want?
Yeah.
They said, sir, your neighbor thought your apartment was on fire.
I'm like, no.
I said, no, I'm cooking a roux. What do you want from me? I'm cooking a roux here. Hey, you know what? There? And they said, what? I said, I'm cooking a roux. I'm from South Louisiana. Yeah. I wanted a gumbo, so I got to cook the roux.
Exactly.
And it was the chief, the assistant, and 3 volunteers.
Oh, my gosh.
They're in their little hats and their little, their axes and everything. And
right.
So we're talking. They realize what's going on. And so the assistant looks up at the chief and shakes his head, kind of funny. And the chief looks at him, and he looks at me and he goes, well, Mr. Stoney, exactly how long does it take to cook a gumbo?
Right.
And I said, I don't know, probably about 6 hours. Why? Yeah. And he goes, well, we're going to have to come back in 6 hours and make sure there's no more smoke or burning embers. Them little son of a gun showed up 6 hours later with their little bowls and their spoons, and I fed them for like 6 months every Saturday.
That's so great.
And
I love it.
But it was just awesome. But that was an experience.
Of course.
And I could continue to cook for people and spread the South Louisiana culture.
Right.
And that was pretty fun. But I hope that's, if I ever get dementia, I hope I get to keep that memory.
Right.
Because that was just so much fun watching their faces and me trying to hobble over there and still stirring the roux. And
oh man, what a fun time.
To me, that's what food's about.
Right.
Sharing it, letting other people experience it, and enjoying what you do.
Yeah.
I even walked a big bowl over there to the little neighbor that called the fire department.
I mean, hey, you know.
So,
that's great.
Oh, I didn't know. I just smelled the smoke. And I said, ma'am, it's okay. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm all
now
fine.
You know.
Yeah, right.
So
At least the gumbo turned out okay. That's the best.
I said, if I ever cook a gumbo again, I'll just leave the door open, walk on in.
Yeah, right. Just
knock and just say, hey, you okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, like another thing, like talking about experiences with things like that is like creating. There's nothing wrong with creating an experience like that.
Hopefully a good one.
Well, yeah, but it's also because again, it's the same thing with. I go back to coffee because again, it's just the thing I probably know the most about in this regard. The same thing can be said about fine whiskeys and wine specifically.
If you take your passion, not to interrupt you, just hear me out. Your favorite thing. Yeah. If you take your passion for coffee into cooking, dude, you're going to be brilliant. You're going to be absolutely brilliant.
And that's the thing is that I have had the great pleasure of being able to taste coffee from all over the world, different roasts, different beans.
Have you ever had Kopi Luwak?
Oh, is that cat shit coffee? No, thank you.
Well, then you haven't lived, okay?
I guess you're right. I do want to try it, but I am scared. Is that I have is
one day we need to have X-Man come back as a guest host.
Okay, and
we'll serve that coffee, and we just won't tell him what it is.
I mean, okay, that does sound like a lot of fun.
It does.
Just pretend like you didn't hear that if you're listening.
Yes.
X-Man. But I've had the great pleasure, like I said, of tasting coffees from all over the world, different roasts, different farms.
I'm envious of that of you. Really, I'm not envious of a lot of people, but that would be cool.
It is.
I just found some from Korea.
Okay.
And I was telling you about that before this. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you got to try this. But I would love to have that.
And I really need to get back into like obtaining a collection like that and like really, because I would love to. The whole reason why I'm saying this.
If you have coffee, and this is really with spices, whiskey, scotches, if there's too much air, it can go bad. What's the proper way, or how long does coffee last? Let's say you got this coffee from Italy and it comes in a container.
Right.
How long, how do you preserve that and make it last?
If they're whole bean and they're freshly roasted, if you keep them in like a vacuum sealed container, they can last for a couple months a lot of times. And then if they're ground, once it's ground, you don't want to keep it longer than a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really? Even in a vacuum?
Yeah. You can in a vacuum a little bit longer. It just depends on, how good the container you have is.
Because I remember like my grandparents, they would have, what is that, Maxwell?
Yeah.
And they would pop the top off of it and just leave it in the refrigerator for like months.
Right.
So it's not very long. If you get something, then you have to drink it. It's
yes. That's the thing. That's why a lot of times they want you to get whole bean coffee and then grind it yourself. That is usually always the best experience because, again, you get to grind it fresh. And then just like with most things, when you peel a fruit fresh, whenever you have certain, like a lot of times people like cracked pepper. Like you can grind it yourself in a little hand grinder, because it has the same sort of quality of it, of like it just has that fresher taste or quality about it than like pre-ground coffee does. If you grind it yourself, usually you want to keep it for like a week or a little bit over, depending on your preference. It's not going to go bad. It's just once you get over that 7-day period,
it's not going to be fresh.
Yeah, well, it's going to have a different flavor about it.
Wow.
Those nicer, fresher qualities you probably liked throughout the week, you will notice like, this is just not as good as it was about a week ago. Again, not like it's going to go rancid. It's going to take a little while for that to happen. And so again, it all depends on your preference.
See, listeners, we even try to be informative and help you out in your day-to-day life.
Exactly. But whole beans usually can last a lot longer. If you buy it from the store, it depends. It kind of gets. This is where we start getting into some gray areas of things because it has taken some time before, since it's been roasted. If you want the freshest possible, usually you have local roasters in your town or your states that you're in. A lot of times, if you're looking on packages of coffee, most ones you find in the store will say best by date, and it's like a best if consumed by date a lot of times. But if it is roasted locally or roasted very recently, it'll say roasted on date. And that's usually what you want to go on.
Okay.
It's like with those dates, like again, that means like you want the closest to today's date of like the roasted on date, because that is gonna be the freshest, like roasted coffee bean.
Because it really is the same as with spices. You know, people leave spices in their cabinet for a year,
right?
And then wonder why they don't get flavor out of it.
Right.
I try to use as fresh a spice as possible.
Yeah.
Even my dream, and once Miranda and I kind of settle and decide where we're going to be, I'd like to have a little herb garden.
Oh,
just
yeah.
out there, even a little greenhouse, small greenhouse, and just get it right there.
Right.
Go pick it and grab it.
The reason why I was bringing up the whole coffee discussion was because of there is nothing wrong with creating a moment and setting an atmosphere or setting a tone. And the people do this, which is why I think some people get a little too uppity when it comes to wine, but it's the same kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with creating an experience about it. It like with coffee, and with whiskey and with stuff like that, there are flavor notes a lot of times. There are things that kind of guide you on to like what you're kind of supposed to be experiencing, but there's nothing wrong with just coming up with something yourself. The big thing is, and this is what kind of confuses people, is that these flavor notes are not that thing specifically. So it's not like if it has notes of chocolatey notes or roasted nuts or like things like that, it's not actually going to taste like chocolate and roasted nuts, but it is familiar to that sensation.
Okay.
Whenever you drink it, especially if you have like 2 or 3, like you do a tasting of like different coffees, you can drink one and you can drink another one and go like, this one tastes more like this. And again, it's all just placing things that you that are familiar to you. So a lot of times there was a whiskey I tried recently. I forgot what it was, but I drank it and I was like, you ever have that experience where like you walk into a freshly cleaned home, or like it was like stuff like that, where it's like there's no flavor note for that, and it's whiskey, so it's not like but it has just this. It is a familiar memory to me, and the same thing happens with coffee or with wine for certain people. You drink this cup of coffee, and compared to, like you said, Maxwell House or Folgers, which has this its own flavor profile or whatever it may be. You can drink this and go, I do see how this tastes more like nuts. A lot of times, I'm usually not a big fan of it, but coffee from Africa has an earthy quality and sometimes like a floral quality to it. Whenever you drink it just by itself, you may not be able to really experience that. But because I was able to kind of put that seed in your head of like, just imagine that, a lot of times it kind of brings it out a little bit more, but especially if you're comparing it to another one. So you're getting like a light roast from Africa that has this really floral quality about it. You compare it to like a dark roast from Italy, for instance, which tastes like roasty and almost smoky or whatever.
Right.
You drink the two and you get to see this interesting thing. And then once we start getting into like tasting food with it as well, I thought it was just a bunch of hubbub until I sat down with the owner of the coffee house that I worked at, and we sat down, and she did such a great job of like setting the mood. I used to not like black coffee. It was just, I never used to drink coffee a whole lot.
Okay.
So, and then once I started working here, I was like, let me give this a good solid shot. I used to be like everyone else probably. Load me up with some cream and sugar and just make it like a little treat, and I'll drink my coffee, quote unquote. But I sat down and tried a dark roast, a medium roast, and a light roast with this owner of this coffee shop. And we went through the whole thing, and we paired certain foods, like little treats or something with it. And I was like, I thought it was all just, show for show, like, a little ceremony or something. But I tried it, and I was like, not really a big fan of black coffee. But I was like, I'm going to set aside my
prejudice.
Yeah. and then just give it a good try. So I tried each one of them individually, and I was like, okay, like I do see the difference in quality of each of these different roasts of coffee. Again, like the light roast that we had a very This is the really cool thing is that after I went from dark all the way to the light roast, and she was like, drink this light roast, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And I drank it, and I was like, it kind of tastes like peanut butter. And she was like, a big note of this is peanuts. It's like, this has a very strong like peanut flavor to it. And then of course, or like peanut brittle, like depending on how you may like look at it. And as I was drinking it more, I was like, yeah, I get that. And I was like, and it made me feel really cool because it was just this moment of, I didn't need any guidance. She kind of guided me through the first one, maybe first two. And then once we got to that last one, I was like, I did it. And it was really cool to have that moment and that experience. And then we went back to the beginning and we tried it with different things. I had this dark roast with this piece of chocolate. She was like, take a bite of this chocolate, drink this dark roast. And I was like, it's almost like a different drink.
It's a science.
Right.
Everything about food and coffee and whiskey is a science. Even McDonald's has a reason that the bread, the pickles, the mayonnaise, the mustard, the ketchup, it all has to be in a certain order for it to taste a certain way.
Right.
It's all a science. Everything. And if you flip that burger upside down and eat it from the top, it's going to taste different.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that, and I've said, try it.
Yeah.
Try it.
It's interesting.
See which one hits your tongue first and then follows it.
Right.
It's the same thing with that. When you bit that little piece of chocolate and then drank that coffee, it gives you a whole nother wave of flavors.
And the interesting thing is that for that peanut, the light roast that I was talking about, we tried like a lemon loaf of some kind, and trying that with this, like, it is already like an acidic, or it was either that or we did something different with it. I can't remember, but we tried, the pairing was, it was almost like it was a different flavor altogether.
Right.
It was just so weird. And I, because I can walking into it kind of thinking like, this is,
why do you think you have to pay a good sommelier so much money? Because they know.
Dude, and I really want to go to a place that has a like full-time sommelier that I can like sit down and talk to. I've been trying to get into some wines recently, just trying my hand at different things. And it's been really fun.
Because you could try a wine and not like it. We go try it with a steak or a piece of fish and go, oh my God, I love that.
Exactly.
Because it's all a science. It's all what works together.
Right.
And it's for a reason.
The big thing I've been trying recently is champagne. I took a little bit of a break, but there is... You
up to the Dom Perignon yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. I'm working my way up there, though.
Okay,
slowly but surely. I tried some cheap ones from California, and then I ventured out into like the $50, $60 range and got some actual champagne from France. Okay. Where,
it's not sparkling wine.
Yeah, it's not California champagne, sparkling wine, whatever you want to call it. So, and I got some, and I have to do a little make good because I pronounced it incorrectly. My favorite so far has been Paul Roger. I said Paul Roger, which apparently is not how that's how it's spelled. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, so far that has been like my favorite one. I also tried Moet and Chandon, and that was pretty good as well, but it wasn't quite my favorite. And I want to get to that point where I try like a $200 champagne.
A lot of people, we were talking about science and how important things are, like a good cigar.
Yeah.
Most of the original good cigar growers were in Cuba.
Right.
And when the revolution happened, they took their seeds and they left.
Right.
And they went to Venezuela, Honduras, Mexico, other places.
Right.
And they had to spend time finding the right soil for their seeds because the soil in Cuba is vastly different than everywhere else. For a long time, the best cigar you could get was in Cuba.
Right.
By far. But now that they've done their science and found the best ways to grow it, the best soils for it, you can get just as good, if not a better cigar anywhere.
Yeah.
I put a Rocky Patel up against a Cuban cigar any day. But they had to find that science of the soil and water.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because they say that a lot about East Coast versus West Coast pizza.
Yes.
Because like the water makes the dough different. And I was like, that's crazy.
It's all science.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's crazy. And the same thing can be said about coffee. Is there is a what they call, I think it's like there's a belt. There's like the habitable like range to grow coffee beans. And there is a lot of times they'll do blends, like with whiskeys, like with scotches or whatever. They'll do blends of beans from different farms, and they'll make this blend or this blend. And usually it's just like it's a combination of beans from a certain area. I had the opportunity to get some South American beans from one farm, and it wasn't a blend. It was a specific roast of coffee and a specific bean from this one farm. It was all the best beans. And it was so interesting to put that up against another South American coffee that was a blend of beans. And it was so interesting how now we're getting into the, like a little more refined aspect where
the bougie side.
Yeah, is that the normal person may drink this and go, they taste very similar, but there was a consistency about the other one,
right?
That was so uniform and was just so interesting that I thought was such a fun experience for myself. That again, not many people may understand that, and you don't have to have that experience, but it was such a cool moment for me to get that bag of coffee and know that like this isn't no one just gets this a lot of times.
You're not getting that.
Right. And then to have that and to really, just like with the cookies and with making certain barbecue or smoking things, like you have this ritual, you have this routine that you get into. You get the stuff out, you get your tools ready, you get you get in this zone where you're like, okay, we're about to like do this thing. And then like you make it and it just turns out it's just this awesome product.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is such a fun experience. And I love that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, even with Maxwell House or with your little cheap coffee. Have this moment to yourself and make it nice. And I love that. So anyways, you have anything else you want to add for the...
I think that was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We could probably do another one on this and keep going.
Yes.
So.
And the thing is, I want to go out and I want to try more things. I still want to like sit down. To be honest, I would love to sit down and have a meal that you smoke or that you barbecue. Yes. I haven't had a chance to have that. And then to second that, I would love to have that, to just eat one of your meals. And then I would love to like be in the kitchen with you, and then you show me some things.
Yeah,
and then of course
that would be awesome.
And then you and I can make something for everyone else.
Yeah,
I think that would be really cool.
Have a little dinner party.
Yes, exactly.
Invite our wives and some other people.
I'm waiting for a special occasion, maybe more like Christmas or New Year's, before I buy some Dom Perignon, I think.
Really?
But I really
Don't wait that long.
No, I mean, maybe not, but
my birthday just passed.
You
had a reason right there. We could have been doing it right now.
I guess you're right.
Yeah. Saturday was my birthday. See,
there you go.
We had a reason right there.
I guess you're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I will save up my pennies, and then I will. Maybe we can just, because I know with champagne, I don't want to let it to sit too long, so I want to make sure it's. But anyways.
Well, unless you store it right.
You're right. It
has to be stored right.
Yeah.
Even our whiskeys and our bourbons, our wines have to be stored right. There's a reason they need to be tilted to keep the cork a little moist, not soaking. Yeah, a little moist. Just things like that.
Exactly.
Makes them last longer. Make sure that if you have whiskey or scotch, once it gets down to a certain point and there's too much air in it, they can start changing.
Yeah.
So
exactly. But that's the thing is I want to try that, but I want to go all out for a special event. So who knows?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But anyways,
maybe that's something we could have a show where we're tasting different whiskeys or different coffees and just talk about life.
I need to get my hands on a handful of beans for coffee, because I would love to do like a 4 or 5 coffee tasting flight. That'd be a lot of fun. I would really love to do that.
I want to be there.
I would love to do it for the podcast specifically.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I mean, just for the two of us.
Can we put Maxwell just right there?
Yes, yeah.
Just put it next to it.
Good old Folgers.
Yeah, Folgers.
What the what? Right. But anyways, I hope we offended at least one person out there.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Who could we have offended?
I mean, I think the only way that they'd be offended is if they were really hungry and just listened to the whole episode.
Right. And really got really hungry.
What is it called whenever you love to feel pain for yourself? You're not masochist?
Something like that.
Sadist? I don't know what it is.
No, sadist causes pain.
Okay, so I guess masochistic. You're just over here just
you
like
enjoy pain.
I'm hungry and I want to listen to you talk about delicious food all
right.
Anyways, if you're looking for us, you can type in Retrospect Pod on Linktree, and you should be able to find all of our links there. It also is in the show notes. You can look at all of our links there and find all the ways to listen to us, or you can just type in Retrospect Pod on Facebook and contact us that way.
And we know we like to share stuff all over social media, and we're not asking everybody to do it every time, but maybe consider this time sharing us with some of your friends.
Yeah, definitely.
And just please share us and help get the word out. We enjoy doing this. We love the response that we get from people. And just, like I said, just consider sharing us this week.
Exactly.
And helping us
If there's one person you can think of that would enjoy listening to this episode, send it their way.
Send it their way.
Yeah. But until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Peace.